I don't even know if I'm going to upload this to YouTube because Vox's name is so polarizing that even to mention him is problematic, both from the anti-Comicsgate crowd and the Comicsgate crowd. I had no idea who Vox Day was until the Comicsgate kerfluffle when he was talking about using the name for his own publishing company. I assume he's just trying to get outrage clicks, and it probably worked. I'm sure some of the people checked up on him and subbed. I checked out his streams, and it wasn't my cup of tea. Anyway, I was looking him up. When I wasn't looking him up, I was looking up the Comicsgate wiki because someone had mentioned it and the Info Galactic page, and I made a video where I read the Comicsgate wiki. It's pretty funny. It's so incredibly biased against Comicsgate, and his this search came up on Info Galactic, and for some reason he was the first name to come up. If you can just Google or DuckDuckGo, or I think maybe I use Start Page, I don't know, one of those alternatives to Big Brother Google, and he will come up in the first or second result. It's kind of strange. So I read his intergalactic page and laughed. He may not be my cup of tea, but it turns out he is very, very funny. Let's take a look at Vox Day. Government name Theodore Beale. Okay. Popular alias. So why do you dead name him? Science fiction guy. And musician, perhaps. Early life, I don't care about. Career, music career, I don't care. Technological, I don't care. I don't care. Controversies, this is the only thing I care about. SFWA. In 2013, Day ran unsuccessfully against Stephen Gould to succeed John Scalzia as president of the Science Fiction Fantasy Writers of America. African-American writer. Why would you mention that she's an African-American writer? Odd. Jemison, during her delivery of the guest of honor speech at the 2013 Continuum in Australia, complained that 10% of the membership voted for Beale in his bid for the presidential position and called him a self-described misogynist, racist, anti-Semite, and a few other flavors of asshole. Beale responded by denying her accusation and calling her an educated but ignorant half-savage with little more understanding of what it took to build a new literature by a bunch of beardy old middle-aged guys than an illiterate Igbotu tribesman has of how to build a jet engine. That is a hell of an insult. Very funny. In the resulting interactions, he also called writer and editor Hayden a fat frog and the toad of Tor. If you're not familiar with Scalz, he's a science fiction writer of some note. If I remember right, he's not one of the top ones. If I remember right, I guess I could have looked him up, but I think he writes military science fiction. This is just off the top of my head. A link to today's comments about Jemison was tweeted on their website, on their Twitter feed. They had previously made controversial remarks. Well, controversy is kind of, maybe it's subjective. Maybe it's subjective. I was going to say it's subjective. Perhaps not. Anything that gets ratioed is probably fair to call it controversial. But in this case, he was investigated by their board, who subsequently voted to expel him from the organization over his use of the promotional SFWA Twitter feed in a manner that allegedly violated organizational guidelines. It sounds like they just wanted to get rid of him because he probably spoke truth to power. Am I right? Day posted a scan of the letter notifying him of the decision on his website. He later maintained that the vote did not signify his expulsion from the organization due to the fact that the required vote by the entire membership never took place. So maybe it's I don't know, what do we call those things? Quorums or pluralities or something like that. 2014 Hugo Awards. And let me, maybe I'll find it at the end of the video. If you are unfamiliar with Hugo and the Hugo Awards, take a look at the past few years Hugo Award winners. You're going to have to Google image search them. Purple-haired lesbians and transsexuals. Far, far left. When you tell me that women and transsexuals, when they all happen to be purple hair, they all happen to be far left, they all win the Hugo Awards, you're telling me you're lying to me. I read science fiction. I've read from a very young age, decades and decades of science fiction. The best writers in science fiction are not women, they're men. There are some excellent female science fiction writers, but they're few and far between. Women usually fall into fantasy, and they're not very good yet. And I'm not saying it's a biological thing. It's kind of an industry when the best science fiction was written decades ago, and women were busy being housewives and mothers and things like that. So it wasn't really. They didn't have as much opportunity, probably. So I'm sure in the future there will be excellent women science fiction writers, but not now. No, definitely not. The best science fiction writers are men, and I mean more than 99 out of 100 of the top science fiction writers are men. So when you have these women winning awards, they're not winning the awards based on merit. I realize how controversial, sexist that sounds. But I have deep experience with science fiction writing. Anyway, in 2014, Day's novelette, Opera Vita Eterna, Opera Life Eternal, was nominated for the Hugo Award for Best Novelettes as part of Sad Pup's campaign. Correa later explained that he had included opera in his campaign because he had enjoyed it, because he wanted to increase. And let me just say off the bat, I haven't read anything of VOX Day. I'm completely unfamiliar with him or his writings or his beliefs. That he included opera in his campaign because he enjoyed it, because he wanted to increase participation in the Hugo nomination process, because he wanted to upset people, stating that he nominated VOX Day because Satan didn't have any eligible works that period. Oh, man. The Hugo voters ranked opera 6 out of 5 nominees behind no award. Salty boys. 2015, or probably girls, I guess. Because this is another thing, is SJWs will infest a organization, and ultimately they will destroy it. Doesn't matter if it's science fiction writing or comic books or any other form of media, chat rooms, boards. They will gain control, keynotes, infrastructure, and pivot points. And they will gain control, and they will censor, and they will filter, and they will advocate for their far, far left position, and suddenly everything has to be trans friendly, or it's transphobic, or gay friendly, or gayphobic, or it's just they're not getting things done on merit. They're getting things done because they have an agenda. 2015, Day created a slate of candidates for Hugo Awards called Rabid Puppies, which successfully placed 58 of its 67 recommended nominees on the ballot. 2 of the nominations were for Day himself, and 11 were for works published by his Finnish publishing house, Castalia House, where Day acts as lead editor. Of these other nominees, 2 authors, an editor, and the fanzine subsequently withdrew their own nominations. 3 of these 4 explicitly cited the wish to disassociate themselves from Day as being among their reasons for doing so. Day was nominated in Best Editor Long Form and Best Editor Short Form categories. No award was given in either category. When asked why he included himself in the nomination and what it meant that the voters preferred that no one win the award rather than give one to him, Day stated, "I wanted to leave a big smoking hole where the Hugo Awards were. All this has ever been is a giant fuck you. The one massive gesture of contempt." 2016, Day ran second annual Rabid Puppies campaign, which successfully placed 69 of its 80 recommended nominees on the ballot. 5 of the nominations in the Best Dramatic Presentation were disqualified, and the 2 nominees, Best Fanzine finalist Black Gate and Best Short Story finalist Thomas Mays, elected to withdraw their nominations after learning that they had been nominated as a result of Rabid Puppies. Feud with John Scalzia. Since 2005, Day had engaged in an exchange of online criticism with science fiction writer John Scalzia. This began with Scalzia's attack on one of Day's syndicated columns, blaming the lack of women hard science fiction writers on poor science education in universities. When I was in STEM in university, in the upper level mathematics classes, there were almost no women. They were Asian men and European men. In a differential equations course, that's not really upper level. That's kind of the end of the lower level when you start transitioning and beyond that. But there were, very, very few women. In physics, there's many types of physics. There's physics for science majors, and then there's general physics, and then usually there's kind of a really simplified physics. So there's usually the 3 levels of physics. And in the physics for math and STEM science majors, yeah, there's not as many women, but there are some. The mathematics is like 90% male, and the physics is probably 70% male. But there's some in there, and they're going into those fields. They're more, I would say, in chemistry. I guess chemistry is more touchy-feely. I don't know. Day released a book about social justice warriors titled SJWs Always Lie, Taking Down the Thought Police. The book was positively reviewed by the conservative online magazine American Thinker and contained a chapter demonstrating that Scalzi had repeatedly lied about his popularity and his claimed site traffic of 2 million page views per month. The book was the #1 bestseller in the political philosophy category on Amazon for 13 months. Progressive writer Alexandria Aaron then wrote a short parody of the book titled, John Scalzi is not a very popular author, and I myself am quite popular. How SJWs always lie about our comparative popularity levels. All right, hats off, that was funny. Supporters of VOX Day, unfortunate initials VD, released their own parody book on Amazon in response titled, John Scalzi is a rapist. Okay, now this probably should not go on YouTube. Why SJWs always lie in bed waiting for his gentle touch. A pretty, pretty girl dreams of her beloved one while pondering gender identity, social justice, and body dysmorphia. Parody became the top seller in the parody section of the Kindle store. 2 places ahead of Aaron's book. Oh my God. The left, it's definitely true, the left can't meme, and the left is generally not as funny as the right, which is kind of odd because the left contains more creative people. I know that may piss off some people on the right. But the left has to self-censor themselves. So there are simply entire areas of comedy that they cannot touch because it's not politically correct. So they're kind of left with saying, well, Orange Man bad. And that's the punchline to every joke, is that the only people you can still make fun of are Christians, men, straight people, cis people, people of European descent, anyone right of center, and now even moderates and slightly left of center people are, liberals get the bullet too, as they say. So that comedy is very, very limited. If you can't make fun of everybody, because most people kind of believe in the back of their minds that, fair is fair. If you're making fun of Christians, then Muslims and Jews are also on the table. But the left, that is like a needle on a record scratch. Anyway, parody became the top seller. At one point, SJWs always lie. The parody of the parody and the parody were the 3 top sellers in Amazon's political philosophy category. Well, congratulations to all you guys. After Scalzi had complained to Amazon about the title of John Scalzi is a rapist, the title was removed from Amazon. The book was subsequently renamed John Scalzi banned this book, but he can never ban my burning love. A pretty, pretty girl dreams of her beloved while pondering gender identity, social justice, and body dysmorphia. September, another parody entitled John Scalzi is not a rapist, a respected grandmaster of science fiction, refutes certain allegations made by a devoted but mistaken fan, were also published on Amazon. Anyway, that made me laugh when I read that. And I don't know much about Vox Day, but at least I know he has a hell of a sense of humor, which really didn't come across on his YouTube videos. I watched, I think, 2 of his videos, and like I said, they weren't for me. But he doesn't come across as being funny, but some people are funnier in writing than they are on video. And I know one thing about making videos is before I started making videos, I used to think, not that hard. You just sit back with a cell phone and, speak your mind. Making a video and recording it is like, it's not a nerve-wracking situation exactly, but it's not nerve-wracking. It's something. There's a weird pressure as soon as the camera comes on, and I find myself flubbing my words and misspeaking and mispronouncing words that I know cold. But when I read them, I look at them and I still mispronounce them just because the camera's running. It's really weird. So I got to cut. I have to. And it's something funny. I used to, oh my God, I was such a colossal douchebag before I made videos. I would look at people with very few subs like myself, making videos, and I would offer corrections because I thought I was helping them, things about microphone settings and audio levels and stuff like that. And I didn't realize what a jerk I was, because it's really, you just don't know what it's like to make videos until you make videos. Some people I think are natural showmen, like Cecil, Ethan Van Sciver, your boy Zach. I think the camera goes on and they are just, they're naturally gifted. Don't care about his personal life. Philosophical views. Do I trust his philosophical views as reported by Infogalactic? Probably not. Libertarian traditional views have been described as a alt-right figurehead. Okay, yeah, I remember reading this. They call him alt-right, but then they also describe him as being a Mexican-Irish descent. So you're telling me that the Mexicans and the Irish are allowed in the alt-right? From what I have heard of the alt-right, the Irish and Mexicans are not welcome in the alt-right. Okay, somewhere, maybe it was on this is Infogalactic, but maybe on the other site, Wiki, it talks about it and it describes his what his genealogy, I guess. So they call him alt-right, but he's Mexican and Irish. From what I've read about the alt-right, they are not cool with Eastern Europeans, and they are definitely not cool with Mediterranean Europeans. So if you're, I don't know, Polish, Hungarian, Portuguese, Spanish, Italian, Greek, or Turk, I don't know if Turk is Europe or Middle East, what it was considered. The alt-right people are more for like English, maybe some French, the Germans, and some Scandinavians, the Anglos, the Saxons, the Scandinavian people. They're very they're racist against everybody, is what the alt-right is all about. So the thing about the Eastern Europeans and the Mediterranean Europeans is that they get discriminated against by the alt-right, but they also get discriminated against by the alt-left because they have white skin, but they're not really white. They're just Europeans. So it's kind of a rough row to hoe if you're Eastern or Southern European. Day has written that women should be deprived of the vote. The 19th Amendment was a mistake. Oh my God. Anyway, you can check this out on Infogalactic. Just check out Infogalactic VOX Day. Or you can check out, if you search Comicsgate Infogalactic, it'll also come up. Because I guess his squabble with Ethan Van Sciver. Anyway, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and leave a like.